Good evening. My name is Celeste McCall. I am the Tech and Telecom Fellow at NCNW, and I am also going to be the moderator for this evening's webinar. The mission of NCNW is to lead, advocate for, and empower women of African descent, their families, and their communities. As many of you may already know, the National Council of Negro Women is an organization of organizations comprised of 200 community-based sections and 30 national women's organizations that enlightens, inspires, and connects more than 3 million women and men. NCNW was founded in 1935 by Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune, an influential educator and activist. It was also led by Barbara L. Shaw, Vivian Carter Mason, Dorothy Bowden Farabee, and for more than 50 years, the iconic Dr. Dorothy Irene Height. Ms. Ingrid Saunders Jones was elected chair of NCNW in 2012, ushering in a new era of progress and growth for the organization. In continuance of this progress and growth, next month, literally in 2 weeks' time, is the 58th National Convention here in Washington, D.C. I'm actually very excited for the convention. NCNW encourages everyone to register if you have not already. We are excited about the programs and the events that we have planned, and we would love for you all to share in those moments with us. So tonight's Women's Empower webinar is Jane of All Trades, the multifaceted entrepreneur. So as women, and especially as Black women, we tend to wear many hats. So it's really important for us to be able to grasp how we can better manage our work, life, and many business ventures, and how to balance that all. So being that this is our last Women's Empowerment webinar of 2018, I thought it was important that we pull from a lot of the different topics that we've already covered, such as startup funds and mentorship, and kind of gain some advice from an amazing entrepreneur who herself wears many hats and who has been able to really curate and create these amazing and thriving business ventures. So we have Deshauna Spencer with us tonight. Deshauna is the founder and CEO of Quelle TV, a video streaming network that curates undiscovered and award-winning indie films, documentaries, web series, and children's programming of the global Black community. And she's a radio host, a producer of Empower Hour, a weekly social justice show on BC's 89.3 FM WPFW. Previously, she served as founding publisher of Empower Magazine, where she launched the Empower Players Award, honoring community activists of color. Before becoming an entrepreneur, Spencer served as director of communications and managing editor for Ed Market. A Memphis native, Spencer graduated from Jackson State University, where she studied communications and journalism. She has written for the Clarion Ledger, the Oakland Tribune, the Crisis Magazine, and AOL. A former AmeriCorps Vista and Chips Quinn scholar, she recently completed her first documentary, Mom Interrupted. She is a Halcyon Incubator Fellow and a Vocal Fellow. In 2017, she was first place winner of the Harvard Business School African Business Conference pitch competition. And we spoke earlier, that's not the only pitch competition you won. So we would definitely be talking about that more. So I'm excited. Can you guys see my the PowerPoint presentation? Okay, great. We're going to get started. Before, let's see, let's minimize this. Great. And before we jump into the Q&A, I want to show you this amazing trailer. I remember the first time I saw it, and it was great. So I'm going to show this to you. It's a trailer of Quelle TV, and then we're going to hop into the Q&A.
Awesome.
Okay.
Como era bonito o presente para Iemanjá quando tinha tudo. Nem para filha. E é o tempo de Iemanjá.
É você!
ilha só existe por causa de manjar.
Oh, did it pause? Are you guys able to see it? Is it still playing? I think it started over.
Como era bonito o presente para Iemanjá quando tinha tudo. Nem pra filha. E é o tempo de Iemanjá. É você! Essa ilha só existe por causa de Iemanjá. Se ela não for lembrada com sua festa, muitas coisas poderão acontecer.
Three, four. I am Bella, who no mortal can ever kill. So let us turn Nigeria upside down. I am the law and will do what I please. So yeah, man. No diplomacy, no compromises, no agreement. Honestly, I didn't die because I have death in my pouch. I can't die. They can't kill me.
He was a synthesizer and he was also a visionary. By the time he comes out of prison in '86, he was like second only to Nelson Mandela.
As far as Africa is concerned, music cannot be for enjoyment. Music has to be for revolution. Music is the weapon.
Kwekwana sipewe janibo nyebribyo nyamyo. Nyebribyo kwekwana sipewe janibo nyebribyo nyamyo. Nyebribyo kwekwana sipewe janibo nyebribyo.
Picky head, foot for nothing. Come here, you picky head.
We like curly hair, but we only like a certain kind of curl. My grandmother actually used to refer to my hair as goat shit.
Literally, they call everything from hard head, China green, patch, name anything.
I would have trouble with you because you mix, but you'll make nice wig. Yeah, my ex actually would always talk to me about relaxing my hair.
My girl, she got a gun in her hand, and she keeps one in her man. Baby girl, I so run the amount. Baby, I say run the amount. Let me know how you really feel. So run the amount.
Welcome to Abuja.
I'm ABJ. Cute.
And every time you leave this spot, you know I get to see. She's bright like an electric bulb, so everybody gets to see. And every time we leave this spot, you know I get to see.
Welcome to your new home.
Tonight you can call my phone. Tonight you can call me all night long. Tonight
When's the rest of it?
the guy watch a man really fast, but still.
His mom and everybody else had to see him there. And then can't be just like he is. That's not right. And you say this is United States of America? Then prove it. Everybody, prove it.
Okay, that last trailer always gets me. Yeah, so that was amazing. Those are all trailers of different type of documentaries or web series that are actually streaming on Quality TV, correct?
Yes, currently streaming on Quality TV. And the last film is actually a student. He's a student at Howard right now. He's 20 years old. He made that film when he was 19, and it's been in dozens of film festivals. So pretty talented Black filmmakers on our platform, for sure.
That's amazing. So when people think of video streaming, they often think of the Hulus, the Netflixes, Amazon Prime Video. What inspired you to create Quelle TV?
A couple of reasons. So first of all, I was looking for more content that I could relate to. At the time I had cable, and then we were flipping through a bunch of channels, and I really couldn't find anything I wanted to watch. I like history, and if you turn like on a history channel, right, you don't see any Black history. Even on February, you may see one documentary on like Martin Luther King or Rosa Parks, like the same type of recycled stories over and over again, which very important. But overall, I was like, what are the stories beyond those stories we hear all the time? And then second to that, I wanted to really watch a lot of these independent films. And so I remember flipping through cable, not seeing anything I could relate to. Going on Netflix, I mean, they do have some Black content, but they don't really show like these independent Black films that you see at film festivals. They really focus on a lot of mainstream Black films, or they really focus on original programming. And so when I couldn't find these films after reading about them, like you would read about an independent film like on Shadow and Act, like, well, I want to see that film, but I want to travel to France or somewhere else, maybe in New York to see it. I want to see it at home, that's like in the comfort of my own home without having to travel to see it at a film festival. And then also started doing some research and learning that, Black filmmakers were least likely to get a distribution deal for our work. So even if a filmmaker, they're in dozens of film festivals, there's nowhere for a film to go when they are in all these film festivals. And so it's like, well, maybe I should start. It was literally just like that, just doing research online, not seeing a space for these films, and the light bulb kind of hit like literally one day, like maybe I'll do it, like probably like a crazy person. Like no one's like, I'm gonna start a Black Netflix, one day watching TV. But that's pretty much how it started, and I didn't know how I was gonna do it. I mean, my background's in journalism. I can put together a mean WordPress site, but there's no rule book on starting a streaming service. So it was once I had the idea, I was like, okay, now how am I gonna really do this?
Right. So that's a great point. A lot of times we go to school for one thing, but as anyone, as natural as it is for humans to grow, your interests kind of expand as well. And a lot of us don't have time or funds to go back to school to get a new degree, to, learn a new skill set. So how did you go about kind of learning the rule book to starting this video streaming site? Like, what are the resources that you tapped into to really get Quelle TV off the ground?
Right. So like I said, there's no rule book. When I started Empower Magazine, you could go online, you can Google how to start a magazine, and there are dozens of like so many resources on how to do it. When I first was working on Quelle TV, like the initial ideal back in 2014, 2015, before we really launched out of beta, there were no resources. There was nothing out there. And Netflix, they were really being hush-hush about how they put their technology together. And so one of my board members for Empower, he's actually a techie. He's like built websites before. And so he's the only person I knew who knew how to build a real website. And so I asked him, like, how can I put this thing together? And I told him kind of things I wanted. And he reached out to one of his friends who helped develop our initial beta site. And it was literally trial and error. I made so many mistakes. I still make mistakes every single day, right? I didn't know what I was doing. I'm not a technical founder. So, like I said, I knew how to build a WordPress site. I know enough HTML to change some colors around and make hyperlinks and do minor things. But putting together like a streaming service is so complex. And one of the things I learned in this process is that people can say they can build a website, but anyone can build maybe a simple app, but building a streaming service where people pay and they get paid continuously, or they lose their password and they get the password reset, or it doesn't buffer, or all those entries, or you subscribe and have 7 days free, and so you get it free for 7 days, and then if you don't, I mean, all these things that are moving parts to make it work. It's a lot of people can't do it. Like, it's a lot, and so I had to do a lot of research and trusting a lot of people who probably didn't know what they were doing either, who were even in tech, and just kind of figuring out from there, realize, okay, this isn't going to work. I should try a different route. And I think one of the lessons I learned, if anyone's, I'm really curious, if anyone's like interested in starting a business, one of the things I learned in this process is that don't wait too long. Like, if you see something not working right, or you see that you're hitting a brick wall, then move on to something else or try a different method faster versus trying the same thing over and over again thinking you will get a different result. Case in point, I've had 4 CTOs in 3 years.
Okay. Tell us what a CTO is for those of us who may not know.
It's a chief technology officer. So these are people who are, they build your site, they make sure things runs properly. They may manage a team of other tech people. They are the visionary. So as an entrepreneur, I'm a visionary, right? But they may say, hey, Deshauna, I know a better approach to stream this, and they're the ones who are going to build it out, or have the team that can build it out. The CTOs I work with, they just weren't, I mean, they knew how to build tech, but they just couldn't figure out how to make everything work together well. Or some of them maybe weren't really great at managing staff. I mean, there was always something that prevented us from moving forward. And so I ended up just scratching that and just going a different route. And I wish I would have done that earlier, because we would have been further along. But, that's life, and it's a lesson you learn in the process.
Yeah, of course. So you said that you had to do a lot of research. For a lot of entrepreneurs or beginning entrepreneurs, what does doing research look like? Is it going to a library? Is it going on Google? Is it tapping into different people you may know in the industry and asking them questions? What did researching this new business venture look like for you? And what are some resources that you can advise those of us who have joined the webinar tonight to use to help us build out our businesses?
Good old-fashioned Google. I didn't go to the library. Maybe I should have or something, but there aren't a lot of resources on building a streaming service. So I did a lot of research online, trying to dig up how did Netflix get started. I mean, they are the mother of streaming. They birthed this whole thing. And so I did spend a lot of time trying to figure out their technology, working with tech people who knew more than I know about it, and conversing with them. Like, for instance, the payment process, or like one of the things I didn't know, right? So when I tell people about a streaming service, they say, oh, you have a server in your house, or a big server in your office space that goes to everyone. It's like, no, like, that's not how it works. People probably don't know this, but Amazon, like Netflix uses Amazon Web Service. They also have their own service, but they also use Amazon Web Services, which is everyone calls AWS for short. And so it's called CloudFront, and there are different versions of it. So basically, when anyone streams content anywhere in the world, instead of it being in the server, Netflix's server I think they're based in California, wherever they are, it goes to the closest server to where that person lives. So if I'm logged into Quilty right now and I'm here in the DC area, the closest server, which is Northern Virginia, that's the one that I will be tapped to, so I have less buffering. If a customer is in London, the closest server to them in Europe will be the one that they get tapped to, because Amazon has servers around the world, and so they're all connected. So whichever server is the closest to your customer, that's the one that they will be streaming from. These are things that I had no idea. And I remember early on, tech people were like, you need to build a server. I can build you a server. I'm like, And I'm like, at first I was like, okay, but then I started doing research, like, oh, I can build a server because if someone in Nigeria watches my content, it's happened to Northern Virginia, then they're gonna have a really, really bad experience. And so my suggestion would be, it just depends on your industry, right? I just did a whole lot of Googling. I have a background in journalism, so I'm really great at researching. I'm a really great researcher. I'm able to extract content or extract information from Google. Like, I'm actually great at that. And so my suggestion would be to just use the internet at your disposal and try to find as much information as possible, and also connecting with people who are experts in that field. Maybe, not someone who may be a direct competitor, because competitors typically aren't going to tell you the playbook on exactly how they did it. But you can at least read their stories and try to figure some things out on how to, whatever business you're looking into creating.
Okay, nice. That was actually really good advice. So, the topic of tonight's webinar is the multifaceted entrepreneur, right? So it's someone who either has like one business or brand and, but there's so many different moving parts, or you think of the serial entrepreneur who has multiple businesses, either like one after the other or all at the same time. So I know in your background, you are a radio host currently, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the magazine publisher, and then you have your documentary that just came out last year. I'm curious as to how you were able to kind of intermingle all these different moving parts into all these different type of business ventures.
Mm-hmm. It is very difficult. I will say, like Empower Magazine was like my first business, and when I started, I was like, this is it. This is gonna be the business. And right now, my main focus right now is Khalid TV, where I'm not really focusing so much on Empower right now because it is really hard. I will tell people that, it is great to, I spend I'll say 200%. Like, there's no such thing as 100% when you're an entrepreneur. It's like you're working all the time. So I spend 110% on Play TV, and then I spend other time on other projects as well. With the radio show, it's once a week, so I really spend like one day like focusing on finding people to be on the show, and then spending half a day making sure that I've done what I need to do the research. So even as an entrepreneur, even if you're not working on different types of projects, as a small business owner, you're wearing many hats, and so you have to figure out how to get everything done like in a timely manner. And so what I do as someone, I do work on my business full time. I can tell you what I did when I was working full time and working on the business at night. That was a nightmare, but I did it for a couple of years. I'm surprised I don't look like I'm 100 because I didn't sleep. I still barely sleep, but I really didn't sleep at that point. I have a calendar. Every day I spend on something different. Monday is really focused on, and this is what I do now, right? So Monday is focused on marketing and the customer. And so I spend a lot of time looking at we do Facebook advertising, we do stuff on Google. I look at our numbers and see, based off of the advertising done for the past week, how has it affected our subscriptions. I look at our churn. I just look at all those things, and from there I spend a couple hours looking at our Google Analytics, and from there figuring out, okay, what is my game plan for this week? Do I want to give resources to something else, or do I want to offer a deal to people who register? And then I spend the end of Monday creating something that goes out to customers, whether it's a deal for people who register but haven't paid, or it's another type of advertisement. If one advertisement is working, I'll put more money on it. If another advertisement isn't working, I'll stop it. Like, that's all Monday, right? That's all I do on Monday. Of course, I check emails because, that type of thing. Tuesdays really focus on content. And so we get a lot of submissions. And so I look at the submissions, I watch content. I also reach back out to filmmakers. I spend a lot of time talking to filmmakers on Tuesdays, especially those who I'm trying to onboard on the platform. I'm downloading content. I'm adding new content to the platform. I'm doing all those, basically a lot of content things on Tuesday, and that's what I totally dedicate. I try to make sure I have as many calls as possible with filmmakers on Tuesdays to answer any filmmaker questions on Tuesdays. Wednesdays are really focused on like partnerships. We have Aquili deals and other things that we're doing to build partnerships with Aquili TV. And so I spend a lot of time fostering those partnerships, having conversations with people we can partner with, like HBCUs and others we're looking to partner with in many different ways, and trying to seal those deals, return those emails for partnerships only, and really try to focus on that. And usually the end of the week is really about in-person meetings. Like I try to have one day where I try to do as many in-person meetings as possible. And then Friday is kind of like a follow-up day where I kind of go back, actually do go back on my emails every Friday and make sure I don't miss anything. I have, correspond with another team member on the weekends. On Sundays, I actually correspond with one of my team members. I don't do it during the week because I'm just super busy. And then I do travel a lot as well. And so that sometimes can sort of alter my normal schedule. But for the most part, that's kind of what I do. And I do encourage other entrepreneurs to try to figure out, okay, today is this. Of course, things change. You can have something catastrophic can happen, and you go, okay, I was going to work on marketing, but something else happened instead. So I want to focus on that. And which happens, right? It happens all the time. You're working on one project, and then you have to go back and focus on something else. But that works for me. And until we, to grow a little bit more and maybe have a larger staff, then that's basically my method. And so I would say just try to be I really try to prioritize my time. Like every 30, 40 minutes, it's like filled with something, and I make a schedule every single night about, before I go to bed, this is what I'm going to accomplish the next day, because I do not want to waste any time, because there's just not enough time in a day to do everything. And if you get sidetracked with Facebook or whatever, you can mess everything up. And so I really try to be intentional with my time.
That's actually really good advice. I was writing that down. I think that's a good technique to use, even if you're not an entrepreneur, just in your everyday, to be able to just manage everything. So all these different businesses that you have started or participated in some way or another, what prompted you to do that? I know a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs, especially if you have not even yet started, your first, business venture, the idea of doing more than one or starting more than one can be a bit overwhelming and oftentimes scary. So what advice would you give to someone who may have a lot of these business ideas that they really want to get off the ground, but either fear or uncertainty is kind of keeping them back?
I live in fear every single day. I'm constantly, wondering, will I make it? Will my company be successful? I wake up every morning, I do my prayers and meditate, but also wake up like, okay, let's try to make this happen, Deshauna. For me, I do it despite the fear, right? I move forward despite the fear. I don't let fear prevent me from accomplishing my goals. And so a lot of times when I meet people, they're like, wow, you built this, or you seem so confident. Like, I do it afraid. I literally do it afraid. And so I want people to be comfortable with being afraid. People should be comfortable with being uncomfortable. As an entrepreneur, I was reading something about, Steve Jobs, and how with the night before he launched the iPad, people were joking the name was leaked, and people were making fun of the name, like iPad, like a MaxPad, like people were saying all these bad things. And I remember reading an article, and he was talking to his team members about his anxiety about launching the iPad, and thought it would be horrific. Now everyone has tablets, and tablets are a way of life, right? But even he had that after being successful with the iPad and the iPad and the iPhone, all these different things. And so the thing is, being uncomfortable or being scared will never go away, because you're going to accomplish one thing, and then you're going to move up, and then it's going to be something that's even bigger, and that's going to make you scared. And so you have to be comfortable with that's just going to be a part of it. If you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to accomplish anything in life, like that's just a part of it. Anytime you want to go up the ladder, anytime you want to do something new, an event of, no matter what stage you're in, you're still gonna have that feeling. Oprah, when she started her own network, she was on plenty of shows saying how much she doubted whether or not she'd be successful. This is Oprah, a billionaire, right, who had started the Oprah Winfrey Show. For her to say that when she started her own network and how it wasn't doing well, that she wasn't sure whether it was going to be successful, and she was having issues with fear and self-doubt, Oprah. So do not feel bad if you feel bad sometimes, or if you feel fearful. The difference is that despite the fear, she moved forward. Despite the fear, she figured out how to make it work for her and how to make the business successful. So my thing is just get started, do it. People have lots of different ideas. I would say just choose one initially and focus on that, and then grow from there. Add other products, add other things to your business, but just do it. Just put it out there and just try.
Awesome. Great. So now we kind of want to talk about mentorship. This is something that we actually discussed last month with Yolanda Caraway. She was our guest speaker, and she came to talk to us a bit about mentors. And I got a lot of great feedback from participants wanting me to let them know the next time we talk about it. So while we have you here, I would love to get some insight on you on whether or not you currently have a mentor, or you either had a mentor at some point during this process, and why you felt that was important to have.
Finding mentors are really, really hard. I remember when I first started Empower, my first business, I remember reaching out to various business owners, magazine owners, asking for mentorship. I reached out to a major Black magazine, and I got a copy of the founder's book signed, but said that he was too busy. There were other local entrepreneurs who worked in media that I reached out to, and it was pretty much a cold reception. And so I stopped focusing on reaching out to people, strangers, asking to be a mentor, for them to be my mentor. Instead, I just started participating in things and doing the work, and then people come to you. I know that's discouraging for a lot of people to hear that. The thing is, people reach out to me and can you mentor me? Sure. I always try to reach out, because I know how it feels. I know how it feels to be ignored. I know how it feels personally. So I try not to be that person, but just know that that's just kind of how people are. Sometimes they're going to ignore you if they think that, I don't know, they don't know you if you don't have an introduction. And so if there's a particular mentor, a person you look up to, and you want them to be your mentor, if you know someone who knows them, and this person they know them very, very well, then that could really be a great introduction for the person to be your mentor. If it's a total stranger, it's really hard unless you're a child. Children can email Oprah or something. I'm serious. I always tell people, children can get that, because no one's going to deny a child. If you're 14 years old and you email, some famous person, and then you look up to them, or you're 8 or 9, people are like, oh, that's so cute, yeah. But if you're unfortunately a grown up after college, it's much harder to do that. And so I found mentors through accelerators and incubators and those types of things, where someone was assigned to, they were not forced, but they were assigned to be my mentor, leadership coach. And from there, it developed into a real mentorship type relationship. But that's the only way I found mentors. I wanted mentors for a long time, and that was the only way that I found them, was through incubators and accelerators. It's super hard, but don't give up. I would say it's almost like finding a husband. Stop looking, just live your life, and the right mentor will come along and sweep you off your feet. I'm just joking, but it's super difficult. But just stop looking and let it happen organically, and that's how it's happened for me.
Awesome. We're actually going to talk about incubators and accelerators a little bit later. So then we'll probably tie it into mentorship again when we get to that stage. So something very interesting that I remember from last month, someone mentioned a virtual mentor. And I had never heard of anything like that, but it was the most interesting, and for me, the most innovative, comment on this topic, just this idea of, especially in this new digital age that we're in, of kind of just having a virtual mentor where you may not actually know them or speak to them, but there's someone that you may have followed or kind of modeled your business idea after, because in some way they inspired you to do so. So even though you weren't able to find a mentor, is there any business or any individual I'll say, that you kind of look to as a virtual mentor, per se?
I guess I don't have like one individual. I'm a type of person, I take different things from. I like inspirational quotes, and almost people like Facebook, it's a gold coaster, something like that, where the person like they were abandoned as a child and now they're, and I'm like reading it like, you can do it. Like I just need that. I don't need like a virtual, but I take stories from lots of different types of people who inspire me, and I go from there. I will say that one of the things that really inspired me are the people who like started with nothing, because I started a company with $20,000 from a pitch competition. And so those are people who I really look up to, because I know like money doesn't grow on trees and it's very, very hard to get money, which I know we'll talk about a little bit later. But I don't really have like a specific person that I'm like, yeah, that's a person I kind of follow, or, somebody's talking online. I don't really have that person per se, but I take stories from lots of different types of people and make it into my inspiration, because you need to be inspired, because it gets very difficult as an entrepreneur. You're going to have so many setbacks, and hearing those stories from other people who've made it, especially people who may be in the same economic or same whatever, background that you have, makes you feel like, okay, if that person can do it, then I can do it too. But no, there isn't like a one like person that really, that I don't, unfortunately.
Okay. So we'll see if anyone has any questions maybe they want to ask you. Let's see. I don't know. William, do we have any raised hands or anything? Otherwise, I'll keep moving forward with the presentation.
Excuse me. Right now, we do not, but I would like to remind people that they can either click on the icon and raise their hand to be recognized and actually talk to ask your question, or type a question into the question pane on your control panel at any time and submit it, and we will make sure that Celeste sees your question. And if you need to open that control panel, use the orange arrow. If your control panel is closed, you'll see a tab that has an orange arrow above a microphone. Click that orange arrow and the control panel will open, and you'll have the option to type a question in. I'll let you know if any questions come in though.
Okay, perfect. So now we're going to talk a bit about work-life balance. And I guess my question, or like one of my initial questions for you, is what has been the most difficult thing about being a multifaceted entrepreneur, and also making sure that you find balance in different areas of your life?
Everything. So I think someone said that there are like 4 things, like eating, sleeping, working out, family, and so I think those are like the things. Like maybe it's 4 or 5, and like you only can do 3 of them or something. I think I only do like 2. Like of the I eat, eatish, and no, I'm just joking, but I will say that's part of the thing I'm really bad at is balancing everything, because as an entrepreneur, there's so many things you have to do. It's very hard to balance it. One of the things I'm probably worse at right now really is sleeping. I don't get a lot of sleep, maybe because my brain is just scattered, where I'm up really late and I try to go to sleep and then I'm thinking about the things I want to do in the morning, but I've written them down. And so for me, one of the things I've tried to make important for my life is making sure that I have a husband, and so I want to make sure I give him time, my family time. And so when I first started my company, I would be talking to my mom on the phone. I'm from Memphis, and of course I live in the DC area, but I would be like typing or reading it, replying to email while I'm on the phone with my mom or my dad or my family, my brother, my sister, or even like my husband's talking to me and I'm like answering an email. And while I'm spending time with them, but I wasn't actually present. And so one of the things I started to do this year in particular was being more present in people who I care about. And so instead of me, it's not enough to just be talking to my mom while typing or something like that. I need to actually be present. So I put down my phone, I move my computer to the side, and I give my mom, my husband, whoever, all of my attention. And so that's a really good balance for me because I want to make sure that I'm being totally present for them, which I wasn't doing when I initially started my company. We have like a chat box. We have customers who have inquiries. And so whenever I'm talking to my husband, and if I'm the person who has to answer a customer inquiry, I will to my husband, like, excuse me, sorry, just give me a couple of minutes because I don't want you to think that I'm being rude. And so those are things I've just started to incorporate into my life. I've been trying to get more sleep. When I first started my first company in Power, I was working full time and then going to, 9 to 5 and then 5 to 9, as they say. I probably got like 3 hours of sleep a night. Like I would literally go to bed around 2 or 3, or sometimes I wouldn't go to bed at all. And then I would go right to work. I was working in Silver Spring, so it was in DC, the yellow to the red line, and it took like an hour to get to work to get to Maryland. It was so hard. I remember going to work crying sometimes, like praying to God, like, when is this gonna, like, this is so hard. Like, I didn't know how I was gonna keep it up because I thought I was gonna collapse and die, literally. But then I was able to work some things out with my company to be a contractor for them, almost like a consultant, and work in my company at the same time. And people want to have a question how I did that. It was crazy. I don't even know how I convinced them to do it. But I actually put together a proposal for me to be a consultant. I would save them money and and actually went for it. And I was able to become an entrepreneur and work on my company, work on the business full time. But it is hard to do work-life balance. Everything won't get the same attention. So your friends, right? I will say, the thing that I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, the thing that probably, if you have a spouse or children, the friendships may be the things that may go by the wayside first to anything else, because you want to make sure you spend time with your family and you want to make sure that you're doing what you do to keep your business running. And so that's one of the things I feel like I have not had a chance to connect with as much. But one of the things I do, one of my good friends, Liana, she's an entrepreneur and she also works full time. We have something called Mimosa Fest. Once a month, we go to a restaurant and we eat. We have brunch, which is such a DC thing, and we have a bunch of mimosas, and we talk about our businesses, we talk about life, and that it's just once a month, but it really gives us a chance to ungroup. It's on my calendar, so we plan it. We don't have anything else on our schedules at the time, and we just take time for ourselves. And so doing little things like that is how I'm able to semi-balance, but a lot of successful entrepreneurs don't have that type of balance that they really, really want. They're working all the time. Even as successful as someone could be. I was reading something that whenever I speak, I always tell people, like, how many hours does Warren Buffett, well, Steve Jobs seems alive, like the really big techies, like Mark Zuckerberg. And so, because they're billionaires, right? And so people are like, oh, they probably work, 5 or 6 hours? Like, no, they work about 15 hours a day. They're billionaires, right? Oprah works a lot too. I mean, she's 65. She doesn't have to work a day, or she may be close to 65. She doesn't have to work again, right? But she works a lot. And I read an article, she said between her 30s and 40s, she didn't watch TV. She didn't know, like, she would have people on her show and people had to tell her who they are, because she was so busy, running her company and trying to be successful. And so I don't watch a lot of TV. I watch the content that's going to be on our platform, and I may veg out once in a while and binge on some shows. But for the most part, I spend a lot of my time and energy working in my company, spend time with my family, and those extra things don't always, it's not always there. And besides, I have a date night with my husband on Friday nights, and so after 6 o'clock on Friday, I'm not allowed to do any work. So when he comes home from work on Friday night, I turn off my laptop, I turn off my computer, my TV, my phone, everything, and I don't do any work at all Friday night after 6 o'clock at all, unless like some major deadline or something, crazy happens.
Yeah. So that's great. I think the running theme has been time management, even from the tip that I wrote down, as far as your Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and dedicating days. And even when it comes to your personal life, making sure you carve out specific times for friends or families. So time management is a huge key and component, it appears to be, in order to make sure that work-life balance is actually attainable.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a couple other questions. I'm gonna start with what advice you would give to someone who is starting a business while working a 9 to 5. We always hear like, oh, turn your 9 to 5 to a 5 to 9. And you said that you were working full time and how hard it was for you. Um, and also, you have a friend who works full time and is also an entrepreneur. What advice would you give to someone who's trying to manage both?
I would say that it's very hard. One thing, don't stop. I think that one of the times when you're working full time and then you go home and work a couple more hours. You get discouraged very easily because you may not like your job, or you want things to happen faster than what they are. So I just want to encourage you and just say don't give up. I remember being at that point, literally going to work after being up all night long and having to go to meetings and not even sure if I could make it through the day because I was so tired. I would go into the bathroom and cry, go into the bathroom and like do my lunch break and take a nap, which is crazy. Like, is she okay? Yeah, it's just my stomach. I'll be out in a minute. But it was very difficult. But I would say, just like what I do now when I spend my Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I was very intentional when I came home from work, how I spend my time. So I wanted to be sure, okay, between this time and this time, I want to make sure I get this done. And I set goals for myself. So I made sure that I was working toward my goals during the limited time that I had during the evenings. I don't have children. My friend who is entrepreneur, she has children. And so one of the things that she does is like when her children go to bed, that's when she spends a lot of her time, working, right? And so she spends time with her kids, and then she spends about 3 to 4 hours a night working on her business when the kids are in bed and it's quiet in the house. And so that is another suggestion I think is awesome for anyone who is a parent who's trying to figure out, well, you ain't got no kids. So it's just true. I don't have children, and I can't even imagine the challenges that people will face if they're juggling a full-time job, juggling a business, and then juggling, raising a family. But if that means it's just 2 hours a night, don't feel bad about those 2 hours. Just know that you're working toward the goal. Just don't feel guilty about not working hard enough. As long as you get something done, that's the only thing that matters. And so that's the best advice I can give you is just don't give up, but figure out a way. Planning where you're working full time, planning what's your exit strategy. For my husband and I, we were focusing on paying off all of our debt. I pay off we don't have student loans, credit card, we don't have any of that. The only reason I'm able to work on my business full time is because we eliminated debt from our lifestyle. And so it freed up more money. So we don't need as much money to live off of to start a business. And so my suggestion is try to get your finances in order. It's super hard getting if people want to learn how I became debt free, I can give you my information. It wasn't overnight. It took us we paid off $80,000 twice. So it was like 4 years total to kind of pay off everything. But it really helped us. It planted a foundation for us for me to be able to work on my company.
Oh, that's amazing. So something else is like when you think of yourself as an entrepreneur, it's very oftentimes it's very singular. Like it's me, it's my business. Earlier you mentioned that you had to let go or you went through 4 CTOs, right? So how important has having a team of people around you in your business been to maintaining a work-life balance? And how did you go about picking people to work with you on like this? Like your business is like your baby, like this is your idea. How did you go about choosing who to select to come into it and be a part of your team? And why did you make that decision?
Finding a team is like finding a spouse in a way, especially for a startup, because you want people to love your company just as much as you do. And it's hard for some people to grasp that. And so I have worked with a lot of different team members. My company is like a tech company. So tech companies are supposed to be fast growing. We're supposed to, raise globs of money. And people think that's kind of how it happens. And so if people don't see that happening right away, they get discouraged. Like, oh, well, she's not raising money fast enough and I'm not a rich, technical, whatever. And then they leave. I would say it's been very challenging finding people to join a team because of that, because people want, if you want to be paid well, you want to pay people well, and if you don't have those resources, it's hard. My suggestion would be, I found people organically at events. I speak or a networking event, you tell someone about your goal and your vision, and if someone really believes in it and they sound like they believe in it, give them a chance. I would say if anyone has a company where it's like it can be equity stake, make sure that it's vested and it's so you don't give people equity right away. You give them an opportunity to see if they're going to do what they say they're going to do. Because you don't want to give someone 10% of your company day one and then like they leave a month later and then they have 10% of your company, right? So you want to make sure that it's vested over a period of time, that they're able to say, okay, I did this, I did that, and then you're able to say, okay, after 6 months you have this much equity, after a year you have this much, and if they're longer they're a part of your team, the more equity that they get. And so I learned that, thank God I learned that when I was like doing research online, because I would have been in a whole lot of trouble if I didn't know that bit of information. But it's also like I said, it's like marriage, right? So take the time to get to know people, especially if these are people you think you're going to be part of your team for a long period of time. You want to make sure the right person on your team, especially when you're small, you're going to spend a lot of time with these people. As you grow, of course, it's really going to be a different, interview process, But at such a small stage, you need people who really believe in your mission. Just like a marriage, who do sickness or health, whatever, like they're going to be there for you no matter what. And it's hard for some people to have that type of dedication to a company if they didn't come up with the idea themselves. And so you just have to find the right people who are hook, line, sinker for your company.
Yeah, that's great advice. So we're gonna move forward. I don't think we have any questions now, but we got a really nice comment from Ayana Vasquez. She wanted to say thanks for being realistic about balancing multiple jobs and responsibilities, and especially like the stress episodes. So thank you, Ayana, for your comment. We're going to move on to a really exciting topic, which is startup funds. So a lot of us, or many of us, or many entrepreneurs out there have all of these great ideas, and we talk about access to capital a lot because it's actually a really big issue. And so if you can kind of give us a bit of an overview of how did you go about gaining access to capital to really get your businesses off the ground, especially with Empower Magazine, even before Quelle TV.
So with Empower, it was all the money. I forgot how I got money for Empower. It was pretty much all like my savings. I think my husband said, we're gonna take some of our savings and we're gonna put it toward our companies. My husband's an architect, and so he has an architecture firm. He also he works full time and he does some stuff on the side. And so we kind of said we're gonna spend some money on that, and that's how I started Empower, which is just like $5,000. And so for Quille TV, because online magazine is pretty much just a WordPress site, and you hire and you have like people who write for you. Even for like my award ceremony, how I was able to get money for that was just do sponsorships. And I was able to get sponsorships to pay for the space and for food and awards, that type of thing. And that was actually pretty simple. No, I would say simple. It was actually really hard. I can tell you the drama of starting doing an award ceremony. That's a whole nother story in itself. But for Quille TV, it was much different. And so when you have a tech company, the whole concept is you build this ideal, you build an MVP, which is a minimum viable product, to test the market to see if people want your product or not, right? And so when I started Quille TV, I won a pitch competition. It was through a company called Unity Journalists. It was a nonprofit organization that was comprised of all the different journalists of color organizations, so like NABJ, like National Association of Black Journalists, National Association of Hispanic Journalists, National Association of Asian, like all the or Native American, like all the organizations all together, because people of color were least likely to get hired at news organizations and when they're first to be fired. So the whole purpose of Unity was to offer a space where journalists of color who were not able to get jobs could be job creators as like entrepreneurs, they give out money. And so I won $20,000. I won it in 2015, and that's kind of how I went on this whole road to start Clay TV. I won that in 2015, and then I started to realize after that I may not get any investors. I spent a lot of time talking to investors, thinking I would get all these investors because I was able to prove my MVP that people wanted my product, but I did not realize how difficult it is to raise VC money or get money from investors. And so typically when I do pitch or when I do speaking engagements, I always ask the audience, because it's virtual, it's kind of hard for you to raise their hands, but I do ask people to like guess what percentage of VC money or venture capital money do Black women get, between like 0 and 100%. And most people, they say all different things. You know, I'm really curious what people here would think it is if they could like type it in, but it's like 0.2% of all the money that investors give to companies. Black women only get 0.2%. I did not know that until I started Clay TV. It was very disheartening, very discouraging for me to learn that. And so when I learned that, I spent 2015 building the minimum viable product, improving our concept. I spent 2016 trying to get VC money, and it wasn't working out. I spent 2017 on pitch competitions and trying to win money. And so the first one I won was in January 2017. It was in New York City. I won AWS, like $10,000 worth of AWS, which is like $10,000 worth of free tech, basically. I won Vocal. That was at the same time. I think Vocal and Halcyon at the same time. And so Vocal was $30,000 a grant. Halcyon was $10,000. And then that was like early in the year. And then the next month in February, I won Harvard pitch competition. That was $10,000. And then I went to Boston and I pitched, won a pitch competition. It was called She Demos or something like that. And then after that, I won a lot of pitch competitions. I don't know how many I won, maybe about 6 or 7 in the past year and a half. But that's the only way I've been able to fund my business is through pitch competitions. So if you have a type of company that you think could be, so typically pitch competitions, they want companies that can scale. And so it can be like make lots of money eventually, right? And so if you think your company is a type of company that's like a tech company that can scale, and I suggest to do pitch competitions. There's a site called F6S. This is the letter F, the number 6, and S.com. Three numerals, F6S.com. And they have a list around the world, all the accelerators, incubators, and pitch competitions. And so I spend a lot of time doing that. I spend a lot of time focusing on those pitch competitions and looking online constantly and see what other opportunities were available for me. And that's how I was able to learn about a lot of these competitions. And just looking online, Googling, opportunities. I learned about Vocal through another pitch competition, another thing I didn't win. Someone suggested I should apply to Vocal, and that's how I got Vocal. And so the thing is, too, don't get discouraged, because while it sounds like, wow, she's doing it, she's winning pitch competitions. For every one that I win, I get denied, right? And so I remember when I was at Harvard, and I was super nervous because I went to Jackson State. I never thought I would be at Harvard one day, and I was super nervous about pitching at the Harvard Business School, right? And so, literally right before I went on stage to pitch, I was just checking my emails, and I got an email about another competition that I didn't make it past the first round. Literally right before I went on stage to pitch at Harvard. And so that's the reality of being in business. Is like you're gonna hear a bunch of no's, and then you hear some yeses here and there. But pitch as much as possible is really great. Pitching is also a great way to be able to perfect how you talk about your business to people. Because whenever I speak now, people are like, wow, you have that nail. Yeah, because I've done pitch competitions, and it makes you become better at talking about your business to potential partners or investors or whoever. It's nerve-wracking. I get super nervous. I technically don't like pitching because I'm super nervous being on stage. Everyone's looking at you, but I do it anyway because it's just a really great way to preach the gospel about quality TV to new people. And it's a way to make some money that you typically don't have to pay back. So yeah, definitely invest into pitch competitions as much as possible in accelerators and incubators. And like I said, F6S is definitely a really great resource. And honestly, once you start participating in one thing, then people start emailing other opportunities. Like the pitch competition in Boston, people to this day still email me. I won that like, gosh, last 2017, it was probably like January, February 2017. People still email me, from that pitch competition about other opportunities I can participate in. So once you start putting yourself out there, that's how you learn about other opportunities, and that's how you learn how to get other monies.
Oh, that's awesome. So, a lot of times when we talk about startup funds, we talk about venture capital and angel investors. I think we skip over pitch competition. I don't want to call it free money, but it is money that like a lot of people don't think about as far as like helping them like pull that capital together to really start their business. So that's a great idea. What are some of the feedbacks and the commentaries that you got during these pitch competitions where you won that you believe like that you can advise some of us that are on the webinar right now, and we are gearing up for our own pitch competition? Some of the people may be contestants, or maybe they've applied to other pitch competitions. What are some of the feedback that you received that you think is great to implement in our own pitch competitions going forward?
So when you do pitch competitions, one of the things is, first of all, you need to nail it, when you're on stage as much as possible, and get like, why you started the company, the mission, the problem, the solution. You go to market strategy, your traction so far, how you plan to make money, like in your team. Like those are the basic things you need for a pitch. You can go online and look at some different like pitch decks that you can see. Some pitches are between, like the one I did in Boston was the one I did in New York was 2 minutes. The one I did in Boston was 3 minutes. And then I've had some where you had like 10 minutes, like 10 minutes. I can do a number, I can sing, I can perform on stage. Like it's such a long time. Because typically it's like between 5 minutes, like, I can nail it in 5 minutes. 3 minutes is definitely hard, but I've done it. Once you finish your pitch, typically there's like a panel of like expert judges that will ask you questions. And so my thing is try to answer every single question. You can nail your pitch, but if you don't know certain numbers, especially if it pertains to your company, then, or even certain things like someone say, what's your, MRR, right? And so after you pitch and someone in the judge says, so what's your MRR? And you don't know what MRR means, that means monthly run rate. You can't say, you have to know it. Another judge says, okay, so what's your churn rate? Churn rate. So your churn rate is, how many people, as a subscription service, right? We have this number of subscribers, and then the churn rate is the number of people who stayed on versus on people who come on board, right? So you need to make sure like the percentage of people who stay on the platform every single month, right? You need to know, or whatever type of business you have, like, okay, what's your percentage? Like, what's your customer lifetime value? Like, how much do you think you can get out of your customer in a year or in a lifetime? These are things that people will probably ask you when you're on stage. And if you don't know those basic KPIs, so these are key indicators, right? That people want to hear, that the backbones of your business. It's great to be passionate about your company. I always tell people say I should consult with pitching, which I probably should, because when people pitch, like I can talk about pitching forever. When people pitch, they want to focus on the passion, why they started the company. That's great. People want to see that passion, but at the end of the day, if someone's giving you money, they want to make sure that you actually have a plan, or you have the backbone for your business. They want to know more than passion. They want to see the actual business model and whether or not they trust you with the money they're going to give you. So don't spend 3 minutes talking about, I have the passion and it's the problem. Talk about it and move on to the other things, so that the judges get a full picture of your company. And so that's super important. Do not waste time on just one part. You have to focus on everything. So yeah, they ask all types of questions. Just know your numbers. Know your numbers. Make sure you know numbers from front to back, because that is what the judges will be asking for. If they think you don't know your numbers, they think you don't know your business, and then they're not going to give you money because they think you don't have a roadmap. And they also make sure you have a roadmap. It's one thing to say, okay, I want to have this company, but what do you see the company in 10 years? If you are going to a specific pitch competition, you know how much money you're going to be getting from this pitch competition. If it's like $5,000, if it's $500, you have a slide with your money. If I win this pitch competition, I will use the funds for X. And that way people know, okay, I know if I give her this money, she already has a plan for it. And you can talk about that in like a minute. Not even a minute, like 20 seconds. It doesn't say, if I win a pitch competition, I will use it for da-da-da. And that's all you need to do. But just make sure you add those things in there. It's like an extra touch, especially if you're pitching for like a certain amount of money, you know exactly how much money you're gonna win.
Yeah. Wow, that was good. We may need you as a consultant for a pitch competition here in DC.
Yeah, I've got some emails now. People want me to be judges. Like, I still want to win. I don't want to be a judge. I want to win money still. I'm not, but that's why I'm just being funny.
Okay, so tell us a bit about your involvement with incubators and accelerators.
Mm-hmm. So I've so far participated in 4. 2 were ones that I didn't get any money for. They really focused on like programming, and then 2 I did get money. And so Halcyon was like the first like incubator I participated in. I'm not sure it was based in DC, but you don't have to be based in DC to participate. Halcyon is an incubator for social entrepreneurs. These entrepreneurs who have some type of social justice or a social impact element to it. And so I applied to this one twice. The first one I applied, I didn't get in. So again, don't get discouraged if you don't get in the first time. You just try again. The second time I did get in, and it was a really great experience. With Halcyon, they give you $10,000 stipend over the course of 5 months, and they give you free housing in Georgetown in DC. They give you like literally, and so it's basically 5 months where you live for free, and they give you enough money to eat off of, so you can focus on your business full time. Because for a lot of entrepreneurs, the big issue is how can you, like, for instance, housing is a perfect space to quit your job. It gives you 5 months to quit your job. You can live somewhere for free, sublet your house or something if whatever. And spend all your time and energy focusing on your business. And you don't have to be single. I'm married. I've known married people. There are married people who participate. Some live in the house, some don't. I didn't live in the house. I don't live far from Georgetown. So I'm like, I'm not going to live there. I was like, what do you mean? You're not coming home tonight? What's going on? You're like 20 minutes away. Like, why would you? But for people who live further away, it makes more sense for them to live there. And so I would say just, that's a really great opportunity to, and they give you lessons on like your go-to-market strategy, help you with your pitch deck. They introduce you to various investors, especially social impact investors. So that was a really great opportunity. I also participated in something called Humble VC, which is a nonprofit one. At the same time I did. So last year I did Humble VC, Vocal, and Halcyon at the exact same time, which was insane, but hey, you gotta get that money. So I was trying to go get the money. I was trying to get my money, I guess. But it was, and because I need, I really want the resources, and they all offer different things. Halcyon is really about the space and connecting with social entrepreneurship. Vocals is it's a grant program. It's $30,000. It was all virtual, and so we only met once a month. And I had a mentor who's still my mentor today. They connected with the mentor who's similar to your interests, and so they connected me with someone who worked for Nickelodeon, PBS Kids, and her name is Alice. She's awesome. She's been in the business for a long time. Halcyon also connected me with the mentor who we still talk to this day. He was the vice president for Discovery. He was like, Discovery Communications, and Silver Spring, I think they're moving to New York, but he was, well connected, and so they gave me a lot of mentorship. This year, I participated in an accelerator. So an accelerator is a little bit different, where they sort of accelerate your company. It's very fast paced. It's very intense. I actually moved to New York. So I was in New York between February and July of this year. And I was there 3 days a week. Of course, I have a husband, so I went home every week, but I was living there 3 days a week, and that was $50,000. And so I got that in February, and I spent 2 weeks in San Francisco for the orientation. And that was a very intense opportunity for me, but I learned a lot. I was connected with Getty and AP and a lot of really big companies that I would never had connections to. So with accelerators, the whole point of an accelerator is to connect you with people you would never would be able to connect with outside of your circle, especially as a person of color, as a woman who we just don't have those same connections as someone who went to Stanford and their dad golfs with whoever, right? We don't have those type of connections, and so these accelerators, that's their whole goal, is to accelerate your company, give you the resources that you need for your company to grow and help in a certain area they feel it may be lacking. And so again, F6S is another way in which you can find those various accelerators and incubators in addition to pitch competitions. But I will, like I said, once you start participating in various things, you will learn about other opportunities. Even like joining various like groups on Facebook, like there's BFF Black Female Founders. They post all types of opportunities. One of my friends, she has, I think it's Enrich Her. She sends a weekly e-newsletter of various pitch competitions.
Rashana novelist.
Yeah.
With us a couple.
Oh, really? Okay, awesome. Yeah, her email has all different types of opportunities. Beacon, also based in DC, they see all types of resources all the time. So once you put yourself out there, you're able to tap into those resources and apply. And you may not get in the first time, because I didn't get into Matter the first time either. The one here, the one in New York, I applied in 2016 and I didn't get in, but I got in again when I applied again. So don't give up. You may not get in the first time. Don't think, oh Lord, this is a sign from the Lord or something. Like, don't think that. Because I'm just a person, oh God, that means maybe this isn't for me. But maybe it wasn't for me at the right time. Life is all about timing. So don't get caught up on the fact that this isn't happening right now. Believe me, I am totally the person who, like, I want things to happen right now. I'm totally like, I wish things were happening faster. I doubt myself a lot, but I still keep moving forward. So don't let not winning something, or don't let not get into a particular program hinder you from moving forward. Change things, listen to what the advice of the judges or the panelists say, and then make changes to your company accordingly. Or if you think that nothing's wrong, and just apply again. Sometimes it's just a timing thing, but just keep at it.
Oh, that's great. Oh, the advice you're giving is so good. I'm like, I want to take notes throughout the entire thing. So the final question really that I have, and then we'll move on to the questions that the participants have. But what does the application process look like for the incubators, the accelerators, the pitch competitions? And during the times when you first applied and you didn't get accepted, and then when you applied again a year later and you did, what do you believe changed in your business or in the application that you submitted that may have made the difference?
So with Halcyon, one of the things, so different applications are different, right? They all have different slants based off of what their mission is. Halcyon is all about social entrepreneurship. So when I did the first application, I'm not sure if I really focused so much on the social impact part of my company, which is telling authentic Black stories and changing how Black people around the world are perceived in the media. And I will say that during my second go at it, I wanted to make sure that that was prominent in my application process. For Vocal, I applied for once and I got in, but they're also a social entrepreneurship type of company, and I wanted to make sure that was the forefront. When Matter is like a traditional VC type accelerator. They want to see like your problem solution, go to market. They want to see concrete steps. They want to see a concrete plan for execution and for making this a viable company. right? A lot of times people have ideals and they're like, it's kind of murky about how they're going to get it done, and they're murky about their long-term vision. For a lot of these incubators and accelerators, they want to see concrete things. One of the things I've learned, like with Matter, for instance, I didn't get in the first time, and they told me they weren't sure about my business model because the way we were paying filmmakers initially, we were losing money. Like we were spending more money on paying filmmakers than we're actually making. And so I said, okay. And so I was disappointed for sure. But instead of me being like, oh my God, well, I just, okay, maybe I need to rethink, maybe I do need to rethink how I'm paying filmmakers and versus me taking it personal, right? And so I did change my business model. I literally changed how I pay filmmakers based off their feedback. And with this new business model, we're able to pay our filmmakers, and we also don't go broke every quarter, right?
Yeah.
And so, and when I did my second go around with them, I told them that I, based off of their feedback, that I changed my business model, and they were really impressed by that, and that's how I got in. And so sometimes you're not going to always take feedback. Every time someone's giving me advice from my company, I haven't always taken it because I don't think it makes sense. Like someone told me I did partner with World Star Hip Hop, you know, I'm not going to do that, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, you'd be surprised the things people have suggested I should do. Well, I won't do that. I am open to listening to what people have to say about my business, and I think it makes sense, then hey, I'll go for it. But if I don't think it makes sense, then I'm not going to do it. But just be open to the feedback. If you get pretty far from most of these application processes, you can ask them, okay, how can I make my application better for next time? A lot of people, like, once they hear a no the first time, they'll then go back and try again. I'm the type of person, I hit my head on the wall. I will try again. I'm not a quitter. That's never in me. I'm not sure it's good or bad. But I'll try again and see what happens. And so I would say just take feedback from the judges or the panel, and then make adjustments based off what you think actually makes sense, if you actually think it makes sense. And that's basically, and honestly now, like most applications are saying, what's your problem? What's your solution? Who's your market? They're all, I would say 80% of these applications are the same. I have like a cheat sheet. Every application I applied for since 2015, I have it like on a one page, like it's like actually like 100 pages now. And I keep it all, and I kind of read through things and what I've written before, like, wow, that was really good. I'm gonna use that. And I kind of copy and paste things now. Once you start getting into accelerators and competitions, don't reinvent the wheel. Keep a copy. I keep a copy of most of these applications, and I just copy and paste the ones that are more successful into the new one. Every application is gonna ask you what the problem is. Every application is gonna ask you what the solution is, right? That doesn't change. Every application is going to ask you, what is your attraction? Those numbers will change, but at least you have a format. You can just copy and paste it and then change it from where you were then to where you are now. Like, don't reinvent the wheel. Keep copy and paste it. A lot of these applications are like on these various sites. So what I typically do is because I also put it to work so I can spell check, and it's easier for me to do it that way. I just keep it and save it, and then hold on to it. You never know, they can use it again for later.
Okay, great. So we are closing in on time. So I'm going to do 2 quick shameless plugs, and I have a couple questions that I'll ask you really quick, and then we'll close out. But tomorrow morning we have a Millennial Entrepreneurs webinar at 11:30, and it's also going to be talking about access to capital, but we're going to talk specifically about angel investors. So we hope you all can join us tomorrow morning. And also we have our own pitch competition. Yay. It's actually going to be taking place during the 58th National Convention from November 9th to 11th. Here in Washington, D.C. Even if you are not a pitch contestant, we would love for you to come out and join. There will be like refreshments, music, and fellowship. So definitely come, see what it looks like, get a kind of, dip your toe in the water, get a feel for like what pitch competitions look like and how they're run. And we would love to have you here. So we have a couple questions. We're going to run through them really, really quick. 2 questions are kind of similar. They're from Ayana Vasquez and Jayla McCall, and they were asking about research websites, which ones you found most helpful, or any books or written works that were helpful for you in starting your business.
So there weren't any particular like websites, because like I said, like a streaming service, there really is no like how to start it. Like there's no how to start a streaming service for dummies. Like it doesn't exist. And so I'm really great at finding content just through like words, right? So Google word searches. So I would suggest like really being creative in how you're doing researching, how you're researching online. Like if you're a lawn company, like, you know, just type in the right words to find the right resources, like whatever the case you want to start. And also there are a couple of websites like F6S, they also offer some resources on like on events and stuff like that. I would really suggest it when it comes to like researching for your business, is to just, you know, tap into organizations that are focused on the business you want to start, right? And so every business has some type of organization or trade associations attached to the company. I would suggest following up with them, reaching out to them, seeing if they have resources that you can use in order to grow your business or start your business, because they're a trade association or some type of organization that specifically focuses on your trade or your genre. And I think that would probably be a really great place to start. But don't be intimidated by Google. Don't think it's so big. Like, I guess as a journalist, like Google is awesome for me because I'm able to find information that way. I didn't know there wasn't like any one site I can find like all things for my company, but I just used certain keywords in Google and I was able to find what I needed based off of what I was looking for.
Okay,
I
great.
hope that was helpful.
Yeah, no, I think it was. And the last question which is really more of a comment, is from Faye Vernon. She wants to know if you could use a volunteer for about 4 hours a week. She would love to help you in any way that she can. And she means like a virtual volunteer. So that's her question. I don't know if you have an answer.
Oh my God, of course, please.
Awesome. So Faye, if you can send me an email, then I can introduce you and Deshauna and make that connection.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It was great. I learned a lot, and I hope everyone who joined us this evening also learned a lot. I already mentioned our webinar tomorrow, our national convention, which is really exciting, November 9th to the 11th, our pitch competition. I want to take this time to thank Clara and William from Clarification Mediation, like literally the backbone of this webinar, behind the scenes, making sure everything's running smoothly. You both are appreciated more than you know. And I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight, and I will see you guys tomorrow morning.